Welcome back to VL Speaks with you. This is episode 2. This channel is devoted to bringing you information, experiential knowledge, empirical wisdom on creating a healthier lifestyle. And that's a huge topic. So let's dive right in. Last week, I gave you an intro on why you would listen to me and why you'd tune in weekly for 15 to 20 minutes. So you can go back to episode 1 if you want to get a rehash on that. But the topic that I started with was kindness, non-harming, non-violence, and how that relates to you as a person. How do you treat yourself? How do you interact with yourself? I gave you 4 tips. So some folks have already gotten back to me on their feedback with which ones kind of resonated with them the most. For some people, it was all 4. It seems like the regulating the sleep and the water were the 2 biggest hits. And these are people that I know, so they called me up. But please feel free to leave comments and be respectful. So recap on the 4 tips. Number 1, regulating your circadian rhythm, getting to sleep and waking up at the same time. Really helps you to get ready for the day and maximizing your time and your day and just feeling better. The next was when you wake, giving thanks for your body. Like it's doing all of these things that you didn't even ask it to do and works automatically. So give thanks for your body and gently wake it up and welcome it to the day. Third was drinking 8 to 16 ounces of clean, fresh, filtered, preferably, reverse osmosis, room temperature water. Flush your system out before you get started with anything else. And then when you get into your morning ritual, journal a bit and start with being thankful for yourself, not in an egotistical way, but speaking to your strengths and writing yourself little love notes. Some of you found that helpful, found it very basic and rudimentary, but usually those are the first things to go to the wayside, right? Like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And then it never really gets in or sticks. But it's the little things that you want to build upon in life, I have found. You want to build a foundation and then you can build a house or rebuild the house or refurbish the house. So those were the 4 tips. I hope that works. And of course, every episode is going to have some takeaways, which is good. Things for you to use. I don't know about you, but homework's good sometimes. What's this week going to be about? Well, I said I was going to continue with the topic of kindness and non-harming and non-violence. And today's episode is dedicated to your relationship with nature. I mean, like Mother Nature, flora, fauna, the planet, the ocean. Why is this important? Well, we live on the planet, so that's kind of important. We have gravity here. We didn't ask for it. It keeps us grounded, even though some of us still bump into each other. And let's see what else. We can't live without oxygen, right? It provides sustenance for us in the way of food. So there's lots of reasons to want to treat nature with a certain level of kindness and the concept of not coming to it with violence. I'm going to start with children in particular, because I find that children and nature have one thing in common. Well, more than one thing, but that they tell the truth. There's a truth about children and nature. Most children, without any interference, too much interference from their parents, will tell you the truth. Their innate instinct is to tell you like it is, what they see. If they don't like the way something smells, they tell you. If they don't like the way that something looks, they tell you. And I worked with children from the ages of 2 on up in school systems. I used to work in after-school programs as a volunteer and part of grant money. And the younger ones were the ones that were much more fun to work with because of their sense of wonder and awe, especially when they're in nature, especially when they're connected to an animal, or just being outside and hanging out and rolling around in the grass, taking off their shoes to feel the grass underneath their feet, jump into puddles, which is also fun to watch and to do with them. Uh, and so that kind of play, that kind of wonderment, we lose it as we get older sometimes. And wouldn't it be nice if you didn't? Wouldn't it be nice if you look back at your childhood and said, "Oh yeah, I really loved like going to swim in the lake or in the ocean. And I just found it so amazing that there was foam every time the waves came in." I'm giving myself away here. But do you think about that? And do you still act that way when you're in nature, when you get yourself outside? Here are some fun facts for you. So there's about 2 gigatons of biomass in the animal kingdom, and that includes insects. Of those 2 gigatons, 1 gigaton is insects. They can live without us, but we cannot live without them. And then humans, what's the percentage of biomass? 0.06%. So you would think that all these animals and creatures would be like, hey, snap out of it, humans. They would revolt, but they're too busy doing their thing and in their own flow of being. When I read that, I thought, and how is it that we're doing so much damage? So this brings me to what you can do. What can you do to be kinder and not inflict harm to the beautiful nature that we have that makes it possible for us to breathe? 1, be mindful of how much waste you produce. How much of it is reusable? How much of it is recyclable? It's amazing how much garbage I see just on the side of the road. I cannot fathom people throwing things out the window that aren't biodegradable. So that's one way, looking at your own consumption and the amount of waste that you produce. The next is really paying attention to why you're buying something, what it's packaged in, what is it, how was it made, where was it made. That alone is huge, huge. Think about communities, and they do exist. There are intentional communities and even indigenous cultures that reuse everything. They have a use for everything. In more modern cultures and intentional communities, for instance, one that comes to mind is National Outdoor Leadership School, NOLS. They have branches all over the world. I got to work with them in Baja California, in Mexico, and in Alaska years ago. And they create systems, gray water systems, uh, using renewable energy like solar water heaters and solar panels, reducing the amount of electricity that's used. And they also have a program called Leave No Trace for the expeditions that they have all over the world. And it is all about leaving no trace when you leave a campsite. They're setting an example. That's great. There are other intentional communities out there that are focused on that. Permaculture is being brought to the United States, which is wonderful. It's already a big thing in Australia and New Zealand and in Europe. Reusing, creating closed loop systems. Stuff to look up. It's all available. We've got the internet. Everything is available at your fingertips. You want to know how you can reduce your own carbon footprint? Google it. You will find information. I love it when kids are telling me what they're learning in school. and what they want to learn on their own. The young ones these days tend to be really tapping into this. And I say we should follow in their footsteps as adults if there are adults watching. And for the kids that are doing well, bravo. Good for you. And for the adults that are doing well, bravo. So these are all the things that we can do now to treat Mother Nature with kindness and love, because Mother Nature is doing everything for us. The sun rises, the sun sets, the planet keeps spinning. I don't know about you, but I'm not really keen on going to another planet. I mean, we're not taking care of this one. Why would we go somewhere else and ruin it? Or dump garbage into outer space? We've already got a ring of garbage floating around the planet. Trust that. Is this making you think and go, oh, she's being preachy? Or there are more things that I can do and change in my lifestyle to contribute to the solution as opposed to adding to the problem? And it starts when we're little. So making sure that children watch the example of the adults, because they're watching us whether we think they are or not. The children are watching adults and going, okay, so what are you doing? What are you doing to make this better? I hope this was helpful. I will be talking about nature throughout these episodes. There's no way to get away from it. And if you follow me on Instagram at BL Speaks, you will see that I'm a huge nature buff and wildlife buff, believing in conservation, preservation, regenerative agriculture, which is really picking up in the States, which is great to see. And also shop locally if you can for everything. Support local businesses here as much as you can. That'll help. Should I recap? Be mindful of what you're buying and why, how it's packaged. Do you really need it? Can you reuse something? Can you recycle something or things? And be mindful of the resources that you have, the natural resources around you, and how you're utilizing them. Make sure that you get outside. Enjoy nature, whether you're in an urban environment or not. There are cities that have done an incredible job with city planning, urban planning, to preserve the natural landscapes and build around them. New York City is great at that, especially Manhattan and Brooklyn. The parks, beautifully designed. Alrighty, well, that's my 2 cents on non-harming, non-violence, and kindness in relationship to nature. I hope you found it helpful and you're a little inspired. And we'll see you next week. I'm not going to tell you what we're covering. Make sure you tune in. Have a great weekend. Ciao.